Tuesday, when we closed, we were still dealing with de-assembling, and we did not finish that portion. And I would like us to make follow-up on it and finish the remaining slides. And I'll make sure that we don't delay on that, so that we can focus on today's topic, which is coding, basic coding. And in order to address that, we would, when we finish de-assembling, we would move to reassembling. And the way, the reason why you see these things put in this manner, or me insisting that we have to finish the earlier slides, is because the workshop today builds on the earlier workshop. So if we don't finish it, we will not be able to make connections. You will remember that I overemphasize the reiterative process of the research process and the sub process of recursive. These two I always mention every day. And it is because they are key to us, because we look at what we've done and move forward. We also go backwards to change our understanding, or we can move forward based on what happened earlier. So we will finish what we've started on de-assembling, and then we move to reassembling. So in other words, we will move, we are in the middle of de-assembling. Then when when I start today's workshop, I will move to slide number 87. From there, we will push forward until we catch up with reassembling. I have said we did touch on de-assembling because this is what was the major focus of Tuesday's workshop. But we also went down as far as developing a schematic diagram as a heuristic device. You still remember the diagram that I presented to try and demonstrate how we can label, or we can assign names, or we can tag, we can label, we can code, or that was the strategy that we used. So we would continue with the process, and we'll also touch the final topic under the assembly, which is de-assembling data without coding them. From there, under reassembling, we'll look at looking for patterns, using arrays to help reassemble data, creating hierarchical arrays, designing matrices as arrays, working with other types of arrays, including narrative arrays. That is if we would move faster, even to working with other types. And this is where we were. This is number 86. We ended up at here. I'm going to put it on the presentation mode and go to number 87. Remember, we were talking about the this tree that has got concrete and abstract concepts depending on where you are coding. And we've been debating a lot of things, and I made the examples from the point of view where I understood some of the data that I collected. And I want to say that we did speak about the yellow, which is the basic coding, very, very level 1 coding. But we also indicated that when we are coding, and when we move up the ladder, up the hierarchy, our concepts become more abstract, and they're no longer concrete, mainly because they have summarized or amassed a lot of information from the lower level coding, such as if you are at level 2, you've got too much information or a lot of codes from level 1. That needs to be given effect on level 2, where you see the reptiles and the mammals and the birds. That is level 2 coding or labels. So those are more abstract than the yellow ones. But the blue, the darker blue ones, where you see aquatic and terrestrial animals of bad omen and plants of bad omen. Those are even more abstract than the birds, the mammals, and the reptiles. And as we move further, you can see there is conservation of animals on the far left and conservation of plants on the far right. Those are more abstract than any other. And the last concept there is biodiversity conservation. You can't, its meaning would not be understood the same as a python down there at yellow. A python is more specific because it speaks of a specific animal. But if you go to biodiversity, that animal appears to have disappeared. It has been swallowed by diversity conservation. That is how analysis happens. And let me remind you, just before I stop off this slide, that what you see here are sections of your discussions in your research report when you present your data. Yellow would be a very small section or a paragraph, and the next level would be a subsection, and the next level blue would be a major subsection, but a big chapter can be conservation of animals, and a big chapter can be conservation of plants. But a big section or biggest combination of chapters would be biodiversity conservation. So what you see here is a logic that can also be transferred, or that can also guide how you would write and present your research report, or how you can present your data after analysis. Now let me move. The slide that I promised you is number 87. We are saying in between, the gradually merging branches move from more concrete to more abstract concept. This is what I was saying, that from more concrete from the bottom, which is at the top of the tree. The tree, remember, we took the tree, uprooted it, took the branches and faced them down so that the roots face up. And if you look at that one, a lot of stuff is at the bottom, touching the ground. I said the flowers, the leaves, the fruits, all of them are touching the ground. And they're very broad at the ground, just like a dress worn by a female. But as you go up, then the tree becomes thinner because the masses, the branches, have merged, have tried, consolidated everything from the top, and it becomes a branch. And the branch is just that thin, one stick that goes up to the roots. So then we're saying the gradually merging branches move from more concrete to more abstract concept, with each level of the tree pulling together a larger group of related items at the next level below. That's what I've said. The most concrete concepts will be the initial level one, the yellow ones. Yellow is level one, open quotes, that you conjecture might be associated with your compiled data. Yeah, that is your data. Yellow, very concrete at the base. At the next level of abstraction will be level 2. I've said that, and I've shown you that as you move from a level 1 to 2, more abstract than the earlier level. In turn, the next set of branches will group the categories into yet more abstract and complex themes that will bear on your potential interpretation. If you go to the very high level levels or themes, there you wouldn't even know what the specifics are inside that theme. But if you go down at the yellow, I've told you that a python is a specific thing. A bird is a specific animal. Black-headed oriole is so specific. Spotted dyna and baboon, red-crested cuckoo, these are very specific. But if you go to biodiversity, you can't tell me which ones we are talking about. You see now, And even if you go to birds of bad omen, you don't know which ones those are until you go down to the yellow. And this is what this whole slide is explaining, is telling us. We said more abstract and complex themes are at the top, and they bear your potential interpretations. When you do data analysis, you reach a stage of interpretations, which we will do after the stage of reassembling, which we will look at today. So that is what they're telling us here. At the highest and most abstract level, maybe the theoretical statements representing the significance of your interpretations and conclusions in relation, say, to the literature and previous studies. When you make conclusions, I will be able to show you another slide when we do the reassembling. You interpret and do comparative analysis. You compare and you sift. You reorganize, that one will become clear when we move forward during reassembling. But what happens is you would have read literature about the phenomenon of studies. Now I've read literature about conservation and the vendor culture. I've got prior understanding, and I expect to understand, to see results telling me that indeed literature was correct when it says there is challenges in the way that the vendor relate to the animals. And if I've read that the culture is positively related to the natural environment, I expect to find something that confirms or that contradicts it. So the literature and previous studies are needed so that we can confirm the previous studies, or we can extend it. We confirm, we extend, or we go against them, we revise it. That is how we can contribute to the body of knowledge. So if your respondents tell you new things, even if you did not read about them, be glad, because this actually shows that you are contributing to the body of knowledge. Don't want literature to confirm what you know, then it means there is no studies in you. You are not learning anything, and therefore you're not contributing to the body of knowledge. Then you would find that you have to revise how you thought that the study would contribute. At this juncture in your research, the goal is not to create a complete or final schematic diagram. The goal is simply to create one, just as a few of the branches in the conceptual tree, going from simplest to the most abstract level. Yeah, we just want to make sure that there is a way, or you understand the way in which data can be organized or data can be deassembled. If you put that tree diagram in practice and you find that it works for you, then it is one way in which you are going to finally use it to deassemble in your data analysis. And you will later on find that we are told that all these tools or these strategies that we're doing in analyzing the data don't necessarily have to be part and parcel of the research report, unless if they are useful, you can just use them as attachments or addenda. The effort aims entirely at overcoming the problem of starting the disassembling process. In fact, you may not ever complete or finalize the diagram. You just do part of it. You can do one leg or 3 legs, and then if it works, it means it's a strategy that is working. You are going to adapt it in actually analyzing the actual data. I should not confuse you. And if I confuse you, please note it down. We can discuss it later. And if you did not encounter any problem in starting disassembling processes, you don't need a diagram in the first place. Thus, think of the diagram as a heuristic or experience device, not a permanent thing, much less than a core part of the methods. If you need such a diagram, you will be able to create it because you will have gained some insight into your data and possibly identified some initial concepts. And I've done this as an example, and I want to tell you that by the time that I was analyzing data, I did not know about these strategies. But in my head, I used my own intuition, and so that I can make sense of data. That is why I referred to a mind map or any other diagram that I can draw. And I've shown you the one that I drew manually. You also might have had some ideas about the substantive aims of your research by having just looked back. You see, when you've looked back, you remember we spoke about your research questions, and all the objectives and all the aims um, um, that when you looked back, they should have guided you where the data analysis should go. But we also made reference to looking forward, trying to determine to put a way, an intent on how the data need to be analyzed. In these ways, if even a portion of the diagram makes some sense, however tentatively, you can consider moving ahead with that portion and start coding the actual data. See now, they're guiding. I said it is a temporary thing. As long as it teaches you how to, um, as long as it teaches you one way of finalizing, coding, or analyzing your data. So if you are comfortable with it, here they advise that you can just continue with it. But at the time of working on it, take it as temporary until you confirm that it works. Then you can continue with it. This should not sound contradicting because it is just everything's got guidelines. But experience shows that even if the diagram provides tentative sense, rearrangements is still possible in moving forward. Yeah, your diagram might provide you with what you understand as the approach that you're going to use in analyzing data. But as you move forward, colleagues, you'll always find that when you look at other segments of your data, you can revisit. No, man, this what I've done is actually not good. Let me follow what I see here, because your respondents would also give you verbatim statements. Those verbatim statements are actually pointers towards the themes that would image or that you can use or you can adopt, or labels that can be used. So if it is something that triggers and shows that it represents your data better, it can even assist you to go back and revise what you have done. So this diagram would be changed when you rearrange the approach of analyzing your data. And this happens when you discover new ways of disassembling data. Yes, this is what I was saying. Now, this is what we need to finalize because we didn't touch it last on Tuesday. But if we have touched it, it's a revision. You also can disassemble the data without coding them. The process may be more discretionary and less routine, but in the hands of a seasoned researcher, it has the potential benefit of being thoughtful and insightful. You are creative because you use your own intuition rather than being dictated to or being guided by a book, a cookbook. Then you create your own strategies, which you will never forget. And particularly if they work, then you would have mastered the process of analyzing in your own way. This is because coding routines can produce their own directions. Now they take you out of, you don't think about data anymore, then you think about them as a strategy or a structure or a way of analyzing data. For an example, struggling with the mechanism of coding processes rather than being able to think deeply about the data. You see, you would be thinking, oh, I'm making a mistake. Is this what coding is? Am I doing it correctly? When I had to write those yellow and the blue things, I had to think a lot. But the good thing for me is that I stole data that was already analyzed and that was already presented as a database. Then I moved a little bit faster, but I did change it. The rearrangement did happen to me, particularly this morning, because I revised it in preparation for this workshop. You will see some new information and some new matrices that I've prepared that also complement or lead to the rearrangements of the earlier diagram that we've seen. Now, when not coding the data, however, the process can lead to non-systematic and inconsistent judgments. So a researcher who decides not to code the data needs to take the precaution related to maintaining a methodic analytic procedure that we spoke about on slide number 7. I just forgot all those 3 requirements, but I think you should have seen them if you've looked at the recordings. And if you want, we can still go and revise them. When not coding your data, your disassembling process will likely involve identifying segments from the original database and creating a new set of your own substantive notes. That is what should happen, and I will be able to show you how that happens. In these derived nodes, you will essentially be taking notes about your original data. In essence, notes about your field nodes. You get it? You've got nodes. Remember, we spoke about recording data in the field, and the results is field nodes. Those you now take notes about them. That is what they refer to here when you are disassembling without coding. So you would take notes about your field nodes. The derived nodes can include direct codes from original data, paraphrases of the data. You see now here, they allow you to paraphrase. But in most cases, we do emphasize that you must take your data as raw as it is. That is why here they refer to as direct codes from the original data. Codes from the respondents. Now, you can also paraphrase, it is allowed, and your interpretations of the data. The nodes should have sufficient punctuation rules to distinguish among this and any other variation. Now, when you do this, if you're going to do the interpretations, you remember interpretations is only found at stage number 4. And we're not at stage number 4 here. But what I want to tell you is, we said we'll go to and fro, and we'll stand where we are, we go backwards, we go forward, we revisit what we've done, we change it, we revise it, and then we move forward. What we do now will also assist us in interpretations. That is what is meant here. Or if by mistake we interpret, then we are not going to actually finalize the interpretation now. We'll take it as a tentative interpretation. And until we look at the entire data set, and the entire data set would result is the results of the entire data sets for interpretation would only result at reassembling, because here we are talking about deassembling still. We'll still talk about reassembling. The derived nodes can then be thematically organized. You see, you organize them thematically so that you can bring together the original data in some different order or under different concepts and ideas than existed when doing field work. And then here I say we can also create an example. Remember, in the compiling stage, which is stage 1 of which is the first stage in analyzing data, you were required to arrange your data in a specific manner. But when you disassemble, you disorganize it, or you change the manner in which it is arranged. Now, again, when you deassemble, actually, when you deassemble, which is the second stage, you change the ordering of that data. Then you then put them as under different concepts and ideas, or you can even develop themes. Then you have compiled it. So you are changing, you are deassembling, you are then putting in a new understanding, or you're understanding it better than before. You might put these derived notes on index cards or separate sheets of typed paper to facilitate your ability to test different arrangements as part of the upcoming reassembling. As part of the, you see now, you are disassembling, but they say when you try and put those cards, if you put them under different arrangements, then you already started pointing towards reassembling, which is the next stage. So you went backwards to go and change what compiled data looked as like, which is the database. Then it means reiteratively, but you build on that one so that you can deassemble. But when you were disassembling, when you packaged it differently, you are also pointing towards future, how the reassembling phase should look like. That is how progressively you deal with your data. That is how reiteratively you deal with your data, and recursively so that you actually complete the course. And you will never complete all these 5 stages until the final stage of conclusion, which is stage 5. And when you conclude, remember, you summarize everything, and it is dependent on what has emerged on all the other 4 stages. And all those other 4 stages have been pointing towards conclusion. And they've been pointing towards themselves and amongst each other. That is why later on here, we want to see how the concepts and the themes relate to each other. And then that is an interplay that exists between different stages of data analysis and between the different components or segments of your data and the label that you or code that you provide to your data sets. In managing the task, make sure that your derived nodes precisely cite your original data. Now they always emphasize that the original data must not be departed from, although they advised that we can, when we label them, we can paraphrase. Yes, they've said that in the previous slides, but the originality can be maintained when we precisely cite the original data. And here they say, or precisely locate the places in your database. That is when you are trying to put different arrangements. So you can return to the original database when you need to confirm or check the material in your derived nodes. So creating useful and helpful derived nodes will not be a necessarily efficient process. You may initially write some derived nodes only to find that later they do not provide sufficient clues about what you do with the data. For instance, you may extract relevant items from the original field nodes and think that they explain a particular process of interest, only to find that items do not fit well under the assumed processes. You might then modify the portion of your derived nodes that covers that process. When you do this, it is reiterative. When you do this, you are revisiting what you've done earlier. So you go back so that you can move forward. Returning to your database, you go back to your database. With the modified understanding, you might then find that it leads to the need to select additional items to be extracted from the database. I will show you that on Tuesday, I had an example of a page that I have labeled or I've coded. But today, in preparation for this workshop, I went further when I was preparing another matrices to get more information that supplements or that negates, that contradicts or supports the labels that I've done. And you would see that I have changed the way in which it was arranged in terms of developing a matrices. So I put themes, but different approach and now the different arrangement. And this is what they're telling us. When you go back, you find that it does not represent what you want to say, or it is not clear enough, or it would mislead the readers or people that are interested on your study. You then seek a new approach. Doing so means going back to the database and you select segments that will clarify or that will assist you to actually present your data correctly or analyze your data correctly. You may later find that even the modified processes was not very useful after all, and so you will have to start the cycle all over again, not only once. You twice or thrice. And I was thinking when I was preparing today's workshop that this recursive and reiterative process keeps you on writing the same data. And you can just write one page for until you imagine, you strategically find that no, man, this data is flowing like this, then you're gonna move very fast. But the first time that you're dealing with your data is a time of sorting, it's a time of understanding, it's a time of sifting, making sure that you understand your data and how it should be organized or analyzed. Overall, there may be days of great uncertainty that you will need to learn how to tolerate because you want to make a breakthrough in a one day. And people who are not hard workers find it very difficult because you will do it today, you say for instance for 2 hours or 3 hours and you rest and you stay for the whole week without doing it. When you go back, you've forgotten what you were doing. Then you must start afresh. Then you find that it becomes difficult for you to complete your studies in time. And then you think that it is delaying you or research is so difficult. It is because it needs dedication and it needs discipline in terms of time, and you must give it all and you must focus. In spite of the uncertainty, many researchers prefer to disassemble their data without formal coding because creative ideas seem to move faster and better. Then you don't struggle by trying to understand the methodology itself of coding. You just be creative, be doing it creatively outside, just from your own intuition, from your head. Then after you have mastered it and after you have implemented what you like, then you move faster. To overcome the inevitable pitfalls of inconsistency and inaccuracy that might occur, these researchers will then return to their original data many times and make sure that their disassembled topics are as faithful to the original data as possible. Because if you're not coding, the likelihood is you're going to be lost. Then make sure that you did not overlook other data, you did not overlook other segments, you did not only prioritize other data and downplay the other data so that you can steer in a way of bias the outcomes towards a specific predetermined thinking or predetermined outcome, which then always I say is not contributing to the body of knowledge because you are misleading and you will find that you don't learn anything out of it. When not formally coding, selectivity in overly relying on portions of your data and underusing or ignoring other portions can become a major risk to the fairness of your later analysis. And I've said this. For this reason, a procedural check worth considering is to take the derived notes and crosswalk them backwards into the original database. I don't know how many times we talk about going backwards and forward and middle, yesterday, today, tomorrow, yesterday, today, tomorrow, tomorrow, yesterday, tomorrow. All those things, don't get tired about that language, because this language, while it sinks in your head and you become frustrated, it's going to rescue you as you do data analysis. And I think those people that are doing data analysis do agree with this statement that this overemphasis is required at this stage. You would like to find that the coverage indeed spreads fairly, or that you have explicit rationale for any overemphasis or gaps. If there are gaps, then those gaps are recognized and you can justify them. But if there is also an overemphasis, then you will also indicate why. And I'm not going to talk about the computer software. We've debated about it. We said it is dependent. It is a choice that a person can make. I want to stop here before we start reassembling, which is what would going to constitute a major portion of our discussion today. Let me stop here and give you an opportunity so that I think I've reminded you what we did, and I've also tried to take us a step further so that we complete what we have started on Tuesday. So today we can start even this other section on reassembling, but the floor is open.
So with my studies, I'm doing a mixed method. I don't have too much experience when it comes to quantitative, so it's a learning journey for me. So what I've noticed with qualitative so far is that what you are teaching is actually going to assist me in doing data analysis. And then when it comes to the quantitative side of things, the biggest challenge that I'm facing, it's actually convincing people to actually do the survey, even though it doesn't even take 5 minutes of completing the survey, but it's really, really hectic to collect data, quantitative data. So yeah, that is my input.
Thank you very much. We're waiting for you. If you have got the opportunity, remember we spoke, we will allow you to do a presentation here so that people can engage with the process that you have undergone. You share your experiences, then we can learn from it, or we can also contribute. So we can also support you.
My study is a mixed method. I have collected data for the quantitative and I've done the analysis, gave it to the supervisors. Now I'm now working on their inputs or their reviews. So in addition to that, I am also conducting interviews, and I would like to support what my the earlier speaker said. It is challenging to get your participants. So in this instance, my cohort or my targeted participants are very high profile people those people who
corporate
sit,
officials, executives.
Yeah, they sit on boards of directors.
Some of them are CEOs, chairpersons.
Yeah, they are chairpersons, they are CEOs, and remember, they are not attached to the day-to-day operations of the companies that I am studying. So I always run to the events where I see that they are either they are featured in the programs, or where I know that it is a relaxed setting, and I'll be able to approach them personally, because it is extremely difficult to have them agreeing to the participant. But I'm making a slow progress. A slow progress. Thank you.
Yeah, Kitiboni, you know, when you deal with cooperatives, you would find that some of them are here in South Africa, but the company that they lead, or of which they are part of the governance structure, is an international one. So in Anglo-American, the stock exchange, and all those people that sit there, they are delegates or representatives of international companies. So capture that experience, and we want to see it in your data, and we want to enjoy with you when you present, or when you show to us how you have analyzed data.
Thank you. I will definitely share before I submit.
Yes, beautiful. Then the other colleagues would also be interested, because it will also teach them. Did you share a chapter with me? Because I'm studying Kidiboni's chapters now. That is why I agree with you when you said Kidiboni is your mentor. Did I read your documents?
No, not really, but I was hoping at least, my presentation, that mixed method, then at least it gives an idea that no, I know my story, Nyana, but I'll share. I'll share, Dr.
No.
Anyway.
Only share a chapter. No, only share the next chapter that you're gonna do. Are you still going to do a chapter?
Yeah, no, yes, definitely. And I just thought,
Okay.
I'll share, just like Gidi, my data collection journey. So I share, I'm doing a questionnaire. So it's a qualitative, and I must say, as much as I'm excited, I can't wait. It's
Okay.
making me anxious as well, because it feels as if I'm at people's mercy. Then I send, and like, oh, okay, fine, I'll do it. Those that I could manage to gain their contact details. I say, okay, fine, I'll do it. And yeah, I'm still patiently waiting. So far there's been just one respondent, and so I'm patient, but it's just that
Beautiful.
yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, because so far there hasn't been anything, but I'm truly grateful for this path, because as I had mentioned before, I was going the mixed methods route, and then I deviated because of various challenges. So now it's qualitative. And yeah,
Did you deviate?
yeah, Dr.
You're
Koromi.
going to be my fan. You are my fan. Yes. No.
It's just that, to be honest, I attend workshops from Monday till Saturday. So I often share this story. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe I haven't shared with you, but I know yesterday, Prof. Mashabel, I know Monday, Dr. Arense. So probably I didn't share on Tuesday. Yes, I deviated. And because of various challenges. First challenge was when I did the validation. It wasn't in line with the objectives, and then the suggestion was merge, and then instead of a sequential, just do a convergence. So even after convergence, my other stumbling block was obtaining data from the CETA, because ideally, if I had the population number with the various years that I'm looking at my participants, that was going to make it easier for me to do sampling. Even till today,
Oh.
3 months later, I'm still waiting for that information. And then myself and
don't
my
give.
supervisor, yes, they said they will give. Yeah, the last time I submitted everything, they said no, they're busy with audit, and somebody was instructed to give, and I'm still patiently waiting. So after another consultation with another data analyst, then it was suggested that no, rather I do a short write and actually beef up the questionnaire, make it more qualitative so that I'll be able to, finish and walk on the red carpet with Kidi, because at this stage,
Is
yeah,
Kidi
because
be ahead of you?
I don't know, but we are holding each other's hands. I'm following her. It doesn't matter. We made a pact. We made a pact. So the biggest problem is because I've had my ethical clearance since May. I've already done my chapter 3. So like literally now I was just idling. That's why then we've decided that
Show those chapters.
even unfortunately, even with the new approach, my ethical clearance still covers it. So probably
Okay.
when I do PhD, then at least probably I'll focus on the mixed methods, and that's when then at least I would have done the ins and outs. But for now, it is what it is. I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait. But on the other side, I'm also nervous because now I'm at people's messes. I'm sending out and they say, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. So I don't know when we'll do it. Maybe I must just send them a Nike swish and say, just do it.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that is me in a nutshell. That's my situationship right now. But thank you so much for
Ooh,
this platform. I appreciate
it's a
even those that
beautiful
know
one.
me, even those that know me or don't know me. I appreciate you listening to me because this is my venting session. I only live
No,
with
thank you
my,
very much.
yes, I live with a 14-year-old, so he won't understand this. So at least, having fellow academics here who are working on the same platform, then at least it becomes a nice venting session. So I truly appreciate everybody, even you, Dr. Korombi. I truly, truly appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments. We are looking at reassembling now, and it's a continuous and it's a build up and it's a recursive strategy, but we will also go reiterative because we will touch what we have done so that we can move forward. But given all your work up to this juncture, everything that you compiled and you disassembled, and all the struggle that you did going forward and everything and backwards and standing on the same place, being confused and trying to move forward, then failing, getting frustrated. Keep in mind that most of all qualitative analysis challenges you to find patterns in your data. In a way, disassembling then by either having coded them when you got the coding option, or having created a new set of derived nodes from your database where no coding was done, may have distracted you from the desired pattern seeking quest. You see, you concentrated on the nodes from your field nodes when you are not coding, or you concentrated on coding when you were coding. Then that meant that you did not search for patterns. Maybe you didn't know that it was necessary, or because you have not been doing research, or you are learning to do research. You are like me, you didn't know it, but it was in you, or you came across it, you didn't know what you should do about it. But the meticulousness of the disassembling process may have shielded you from thinking about the broader meaning of the data. Then you were micro looking. You remember we spoke about the pythons, we spoke about the baboons, and we spoke about all those good omens at a micro, or even if we were at a meso or macro level. And we didn't look at the entire data, because when we were doing that, look, remember, we just took a leg of what the data looked like, and we didn't go through the entire leg. And sometimes even with related segments that touched those that we coded, we didn't even go into all of those. So we were looking at minute segments, minute part of our data. So we didn't look at that broadly. Now, how they might inform the original study questions or reveal some important new insights into the original study topic, that was not what we experienced because of the extent to which we were focused. We focused on the small things, small portions. Whereas you might have fallen into a coding trap and assumed that careful coding would lead the data to speak for themselves. And it is believed that quantitative researchers believe that data should speak for itself. And this, in qualitative research, this author is saying that is not correct. The textbooks commonly give detailed attention to coding or disassembling data, and then little attention to what to do with the disassembled data. That is, if the authors did not indeed indicate what you need to do with the data disassembled, or if they don't have good background or good experience in conducting research. So all of the latter three analytical phases, the reassembling, which we will be looking at, interpreting, which would also follow in the next workshop, and concluding, it will fill the gap of what you do with the data that have been disassembled. And today we are starting to look at reassembly. And the most important aspect to do or exercise that we have to do is that one of looking for patterns, as we have said earlier on. And this one, if you want to undertake it, think of the reassembling phase as the time when you will turn your attention fully to the search for patterns. It means we are now even jumping to looking for patterns. The patterns may be broad or narrow, but we have to search for them. They may cover different topics, but we have to search for those topics and for those patterns. They do not need to converge. Even if they contradict, it's fine as long as they are patterns. Because in research, we're not only interested on things that converge. Diversity and contradiction is also important because it creates an opportunity for us to analyze in that confusion or in that contradiction what it means in terms of the study, the findings, and earlier empirical studies. So do we revise? Do we augment? Do we extend it? Do we build onto it? So convergence is not a requirement in research. Thus, patterns will be the main outcome of this third phase in the analysis cycle. If you are lucky, you may in fact have unearthed hints of potentially interesting patterns in the data during the compiling and disassembling phases. Do you see what they mean here? They are saying your reassembling phase is based on what you have compiled and what you have disassembled. And we have said when we step off from deassembling, we need to know what to do with the data that we've disassembled. And the first strategy is that one of reassembling. So we build onto compiling and deassembling phases as we move forward. If you continue to use a formal coding process, the reassembling will take the form of bringing your level 1 and level 2 codes onto an even higher conceptual plane, whereby themes and theoretical concepts start to converge, and they may be considered level 3 and level 4. So I say, so does the tree start reassembling? Remember, we had a tree that had levels 4, even up to level 5. So does it mean we already had touched reassembling? Does it mean we already have touched interpretation? And does it mean that we've already touched conclusions? Now we're talking about reassembling, but we're saying some themes and some theoretical concepts might have started to merge, and then those considered level 3 and level 4 codes that belong to this one and to the next level of data analysis. Regardless of whether you are following the coding or non-coding options, during the reassembling process, you should constantly be questioning yourselves and the data. And when you question yourself, you provide answers. I enjoy. There's an exercise that I want us to engage today, and I will advise you. And I think it might be immediately behind this slide, and I will tell you what to do. Search querying is intrinsic to doing analysis. In other words, it assists you to succeed in your data analysis. More important than the specific answers to the queries may be that you are proactively sifting those questions. Now, it forces you to sift. They force you to sort your ideas. They force you to carry out constant comparisons and searching for patterns. You see, those are the questions that we'll look at now. Patterns is things that emerge and they are geared towards a specific direction, and sometimes we can start predicting them in the way that quantitative researchers do. That is how I understand patterns. But you will see what patterns are and how I think what I've presented as examples demonstrate patterns. So here are the questions that you need to ask yourself when you are reassessing data in your phase 3. These questions are 4, and I want you to note them. Take a picture of them through your cell phones. While I'm talking here, so I will refer from time to time. I will refer to them and I will ask them so that you can demonstrate how we are answering them or how we are imaging or we are seeing them as part of what we would be deliberating. And if they provide, we can provide answers with respect to that. And I've put in red here specific experiences that I've had with the data that I'm going to use as examples. That some answers are there, some answers are not there, but those answers should not be yours and should not force you in the box. I want you to be independent. Yeah, and the first question is that we're going to ask ourselves. We must continue in every step of disassembling to ask how might different events or experiences in the database somehow be related to each other. And this is what I want us to explore. And we would be able to discuss. We'll look at different experiences or databases. We would want to see how all the segments or the experiences or events are related, whether it is in terms of levels or in terms of things or categories, anything that emerges. We want to see if it relates to any other aspect or segment or a theme related to a category or a theme related to a code or a code related to when there is some form of pattern that is actually imaging. Do the imaging patterns move you to a substantively important plane? Yeah, we want to see, do they even lead to you actually relating to what the original intent of the study is? Are they contributing to what you wanted the data to contribute? Are they answering those research questions? Are they actually showing that you are actually moving towards achieving the purpose? Because of the purpose of the research would be achieved after data analysis. Are you lost, or is the data losing you, or whatever? Does the pattern assist you in showing that indeed you are on course, or are there other surprises or other things that you think, oh, these ones, I didn't think that this will be part and parcel of this? Or does it confirm what we already know or what we anticipated? We had assumptions, prior knowledge, prior expectations. Are those rubbed off or they are common? They are confirmed. And then how do the patterns relate to the concepts and hypotheses entertained at the outset of your study? And here, your concepts and your hypotheses, most of them would be based on what you have read and what the prior knowledge and your worldview is. When you were doing your chapters, your earlier chapters, you were preparing so that you understand concepts and you can formulate a hypothesis, or you can actually use some of your theories and concepts in actually collecting data. You can base your questionnaire, you can base your interview guide on some earlier concepts. Remember the theoretical framework that we must give effect to, and the objectives that we have. And our objectives are based on our research questions and the purpose of the study and the specific study problem that we want to solve, the extent to which we want to contribute to the body of knowledge. And do the patterns become more complicated or expansive when you review additional segments for your database? Today, I'm going to show you that on Tuesday, we had very just a paragraph that we used when we were coding. But as I've said already, I went again to do further research, and I reveled and revealed and identified more sections and more paragraphs and more pages that augment or that contradict with the earlier examples that we have. And I want to show you what that did in terms of the pattern. And if it is the pattern that emerged, if the patterns that emerged after bringing additional segments misled me or made me to revisit the way in which I had labeled or I had coded the earlier data, the data that I had, which was very few little, then let it be so. And if it supported my approach or it wanted me to revise, then let it be. And this is what we need to answer, all of us. And I think you have taken pictures of these questions. We will ask them from time to time to the end of this session. And there is a procedure that is integral to the reassembling phase, which will follow in the next slide. That will help you in this pattern seeking quest. It's not in this slide, it's in the forthcoming slides. But I want to show you that some of the data that I collected was really related to the earlier concepts from the outset of the study. And I said this is very, very important in comparative analysis, comparing this data with the earlier concepts or with what empirical studies say about the concept, about the phenomenon under research. So this is about culture and conservation. I read something, and when I read something, literature told me some type of relationship between the Venda culture and conservation. And that I carried in my head when I was collecting data. And when I was analyzing data, those things do come, and I had to compare them. Look, I'm going to read this because in the next slides, I would even show you where the relationship is. Look, the traditional leaders and traditional healers responded to one of the questions about the relationship between animals and the Venda culture. They say a python may not be killed because it might cause influenza. When someone comes across a python, its presence must be reported to the chief scroll. They believe the chief is the only one who may give permission for the python to be killed. When a python is killed, oil is extracted from its body by roasting, and this oil is used for treating wounds. Respondents also believe that a hippo may not be killed because it has poisonous bones, which people might use to kill each other, or they can use this as poison. So now we're talking about the python, that it may not be killed. And I've made reference to the python on Tuesday, that it is one of the animals with which has got some omen, either bad or good omen. That I forgot about it, but we will see still, because we still have some matrices or some things that we've built in there. And this is the literature that I had read before I collected this data that I read for you, which are the responses from traditional healers and traditional leaders. Then I had read under the literature review, or I had written what is I'm going to read now. Look, it was traditionally acceptable that snakes were mizimu, which means the goddess, and that they should be worshipped. Snakes should be worshipped. The reason for this was that when the Bavenda arrived in Venda, snakes had already lived in the area since time immemorial. The Bavenda believed that because snakes do not harm anyone except if he or he has broken the laws of the country, they should never be killed. Generally, snakes should never be killed. This is in accordance to Van Varmelo, 1960. But Jordan, 1987, also supports this concept of snake conservation. He reports that any python killed in Venda during the rainy season might well cause the rain to stay away. Even if it were killed in winter, it had to be thrown into water. This act would assure that the rains would come again in in the summer. Now, now I show that the reason why it should not be killed, there is for that influenza should not be there, and that rain should not stay away. Now, the Bavenda, as a result, do respect pythons and they don't kill. This is in accordance with the authors. And after I've had this, then I went to collect data. Now, look at the data that I read for you. Now here, our people and the people that did not write books, and these are the respondents, they say python may not be killed. And they spoke about the influenza and what should happen, the chief being the only one that is. So you can see that there is no contradiction between the data that I collected and the literature that is there. Okay? So we are answering one of the questions here. And I want you to keep in mind which questions we have answered here. And when I pause, this is the first one that you're going to tell me. Okay, so let's move on. Now, we are going to look at strategies of how to assemble data. And the first one is using arrays. The reassembling process will involve playing with data. You should readily mix and match them under different arrangements and themes, and then alter and re-alter the arrangements, themes until some patterns emerge that seem satisfactory to you. You have heard that we said, if you're using data, you can arrange your data under different themes, or sometimes you have paraphrased it, put it under a heading that you have paraphrased, or under a heading that you have taken as a direct quotation from one of the respondents or from your respondents. But we also have heard that you can think that this was going to actually assist you in analyzing your data. But as you move forward, you find that, no, man, but that heading that I've created is not correct, does not assist me in going forward. You go and revise it again, and then sometimes it makes you stuck on the same place or feel that you are stuck on the same place. But I want to tell you that when that happens, that is when you are actually doing true analysis. And the reason for analysis is actually to cook your head, to master and become a good professor and a researcher. So this is what we are told would happen to us. Alter, change it, maintain, move forward, go backwards and do all those things. And if we are not patient enough, we lose it and we think that this study is actually boring. But computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software or system software, you can use Boolean logic to query the database and examine different combinations of codes. So it combines differently for you. I think you need to give it instructions. And this is the reason that why we said you must also spend more time on learning how to use this technology or this software. Otherwise, somebody must do it for you. And there you pay money, but you're not learning anything. The ball is in your court. But alternatively, in the non-coding option, if your new set of derived nodes is on index cards and in manual form, you can manipulate the cards into different combinations. This is much faster because you have written in cards that are separate, they're not stuck, they're not in one page. You can arrange it, put it, the other one as a heading, and the other one becomes a subheading or a section under it. When you find that it does not make sense, you rearrange it, you package it. So it's a game which should be enjoyed by researchers. So research is enjoyable because this is nice to do. The manipulation might follow one or more of the following patterns. Tracking how the same individuals is represented at the different times and places, because even when respondents respond to you, you will find that in another discussion or in another day, they say that you can kill a python. You can't throw it away because most of your people earlier on or the previous time told you that you can't kill a python. Now you can't throw that one away. You must keep it there. By the way, if you are a quantitative researcher or a mixed method researcher, what would happen is we want to know how many percentage of the people were not supporting the killing of your pythons. And we want to know how many traditional leaders were supportive of killing or maintaining them. So that is very, very important. And it means something in terms of data analysis. And those people that play with quantitative data analysis, regression curve I don't know, Kidi, what you are going to use. And constant comparison, I don't know what that, if that is part of your statistical analysis, it would be very important. A minute percentage or a huge percentage, all of them have got implication on the meaning and the interpretation and conclusions in terms of the results. Because you would say, although 30% say that they have killed animals, 20% said that they've never killed animals or they've never seen an animal being killed. Then you're left with 50 who said, we have seen it or we want it killed. And what is the meaning to you? How do you interpret it? And this ball is in your court today. You're going to do it in terms of the data that you will collect. Examining the structures of actions in terms of the people, things, or ideas involved. You look at the actions of the people. Later on, I would show you in one of the matrices that people react to in terms of their relationships with the animals. If they are afraid of an animal, they react. If you see a lion, you run away because you are afraid of it. Or if they find a spotted hyena because they think that it is used by witches or it is used for witchcraft, then they run away also, or they don't want to see it, or they say a polecat smells, so they don't want to go closer to it. These are the things that happen to the people that provide data to you, and it demonstrates their perceptions and their relationships with their environment, which is what you are investigating. Comparing some patterns with those found in other studies, this is what we said. Does the data have any bearing or any relevance to the previous empirical studies findings? Does it negate that is support? Is it building onto it? Or is it in the middle or it is silent about it? We have known that the empirical study in the past have said something about the vendor culture and the environment. That according to me, because I'm biased, I think that there's a lot that the vendor culture contributes to the sustainability of the natural environment. In the same way that the Western culture believes that there is a process, the ecological strategy, the conservation strategy, environmental management from a Western perspective. I said in my recommendations or in my conclusions, this vendor approach is equivalent to the Western approach. This vendor approach and the Western cultures can complement each other. So what images? If the pattern is that, when the vendor use the animals, they protect it more. That is a pattern. When they don't see an animal or a part of the environment helping them, no, they care less about it. Even if it is damaged or it is destroyed and it is not conserved, they don't worry. This is what is imaged in my study. So what does it say about this relationship in terms of what literature is saying, in terms of what empirical findings of the previous studies are saying? And this will assist me when I interpret and when I conclude and when I make specific recommendations for future studies. That is what all of us should do when we're doing data analysis. Besides using your own intuition, or in the absence of your intuition, colleagues, one specific way of playing with the data is to array them in an organized fashion, as in the following 3 examples. You will create hierarchical arrays, matrices or S arrays, or working with other types of arrays, including narrative arrays. And I do believe that if we are lucky, we'll be able to do hierarchical arrays and matrices as arrays. Hierarchical arrays is equivalent to what we've done on Tuesday, so we'll be fast in looking at that one. And we're just left with 32 minutes towards the end, but I will try to do justice to what is remaining. Let's move on and look how we can create hierarchical arrays. And one common way is to build hierarchies with one such hierarchy resembling the prospective scheme and its conceptual tree discussed earlier. And you remember that one? I'll show you something like that today, but with different packaging and different naming and different labeling or coding, or if I'm not coding, different notes making. But with the hierarchy now based on actual data, not just a prospective scheme. Now, yes, I don't agree with him because I'm not going to base it only on actual data. I will take what I have captured as data, but sometimes I will even assign meaning to it, or I will paraphrase. I think paraphrase is allowed because he said it earlier on in the previous slide, so I will do that one. The most concrete database items would be at one end of the hierarchy. You see now, we have said this in terms of the deassembling. A more abstract concept grouping some of the concrete items would be at a higher level, and so on. Okay, by assembling the data so that related data fall under similar concepts and unrelated data fall under separate concepts, the hierarchy can point to different groupings, potentially classes or typologies of things. Classes are groupings or are arrays, or I don't know what the English language calls, but we're gonna put two similar things in one basket, and things that are not the same will not fall in that basket. They will be outside, so that they should find their own friends and can be bundled together. And if they don't have friends, they will be idling, running outside the basket because they don't belong to any friends. And that is what data analysis is, and it is grouping, and it's a way in which you can create categories or classes or groupings. The hierarchy also can suggest associations across groupings, and when you've got two different groupings, then you can look for patterns. Do they or you can look for similarities, or you can look for differences. Associations across groupings or disassociations, the relationship across the classes, or the divergence, or whatever difference it is. For the coding option, it can simply be seen as an array of level 1 to level 4 codes concepts, and we've seen this in the previous diagram. For the non-coding option, a similar hierarchy can be developed, probably in a more conceptual than literal manner from the derived nodes created during the disassembling phase. We will be able to see that. In playing with the data, you can build more than a single hierarchy. You see? And because you can test different arrangements, and they produce different hierarchies. So they produce different approaches to data analysis and data interpretation and conclusions. One or more of them later become the basis for one of these groupings, or one of these part of this hierarchy. It becomes the basis for structuring the data to organize your entire study with the ensuing analysis focusing on the groupings and their relationships. If you are lucky, and if you succeeded to then do the correct structure for the data. Additional detail can then be added at each level of the hierarchy to ensure that your actual report will contain as rich a rendition of the original data as desired. When you do this diagram, these arrays, you will find that you would not have all the information, because your array would just be a diagrammatic representation in one page. It's a one page that we spoke about on Tuesday. So it has got summary of what the data looks like, or what how it is analyzed. But the details would be in your narrative. The levels and the details will be contained in the sections and subsections of the chapter or data analysis. Because I said these categories are sections, are chapters, are subsections, and are segments, or they are paragraphs or statements. Yes, they are like that, and those details will go into your narratives. Let us review our data and develop hierarchical arrays from the following slides. Now, this is what we did and we used on Tuesday, and I told you that we had bird and birds, we had mammals and mammals, we have got reptiles, we've got birds and reptiles. Those we have put them for you on a diagram, and you have seen how they are related and how they contradict. So I went further to look at some information that actually explained more about this reasoning of the bad omens and of the good omens. There is a substantiation, and here I got it from the data. These are the responses from the different respondents. And the traditional leaders say that the majority of traditional leaders, which were 87, reported that ominous animals are hated. And there was just one, although one denied this. So this shows that they this statement represent a perception about the negative relationship with the Bavenda between the animal or the environment or between the animals and the Bavenda. So I took it into account, although I did have that hierarchy on Tuesday. And when I also went to the villages to hear what they say about those that have labeled, what do they say about those animals? There's something that has got to do with further with negative relationship with animals of bad omen. Oh, they say it is read here. 76% of villagers reported that they hate animals of bad omen, and only 34 said that reported that they like them. So there is a positive relationship about others. Others reported positively, others reported negatively. But those who indicated that they hate animals of bad omen stated that when an owl cries, they may bang. So they've got a reaction that they do. Now it shows that there is a negative reaction. And these things, you will see that I've used them to create headings and subheadings about this data. Whereas in the previous diagram, you only saw names or reference to the animals. But here, then it is the actions themselves. No, it is this. I'm trying to give meaning to actually classify data differently than I did with it when I did assembly. And now they also report of the negative consequences if you react negatively or if you have got that negative relationship between the animals. Because some believe that a person who throws a stone at an owl may have his or her hand infected or severed. Most of animals that are hated are also feared. So if you try to throw a firebrand to an owl or a stone or any other thing, it is said that your hand can also be detached or be severed, go away with that firebrand or what you're throwing there. That is the perception and that is the belief. So it makes people fear to attack these animals, although they hate them and they fear them, they don't like them. Now you see now, ameliorating perception and relationship. But of the villagers who reported that they liked these animals, most reported liking animals of good omen. Therefore, few reported of liking animals of bad omen. Because to a certain extent, some also reported liking some animals of bad omen. Now you see, this is a negative thing, and we were told that if data does not have to converge, here data is not converging, because others say they like animals of bad omen, others say they don't like it. Although those that are saying do like it are in the minority, it has got implication on your data, and this is an impact on your findings, and it impacts on the earlier study that other people have done and that you have read, you have documented under your other chapter of literature review. That has informed you and advised you on what questions to ask in order to get what I'm reading in here. It's very, very important. And now the chiefs, or generally, there is a bad relationship between animals of bad omen and the Bavenda. But despite this, most 75% of the traditional leaders, they do not encourage hatred. This is what they reported. So there is a positive feeling, a desire to actually protect the animals. They say, don't hate those animals. Don't kill them. Don't fiddle with them. Then what they do is to encourage a positive attitude. But very few said they encouraged hatred towards. You see now, there is a contradiction again. And this contradiction we're going to carry with until the last day of conclusion and commendation. Now, this is what I've done. After I have read these passages and these statements, this paragraph, then it ameliorated the earlier database that we had. Because on Tuesday, we were only looking at this database. But then we went further to ravel from the research report, and then we found that there is more information that can assist us to fiddle and try and assemble the data back. And that time we use themes rather than using the specific names as codes or labels in analyzing our data. You can see now, I didn't only put the names of the animals And that yellow has now become level number 2 because it was level number 1 here. Look at what happens. Level number 1, I say, Muvenda should not kill Python. And again, level number 1, Python represents Wazimu. And let me go to level number 2. Level number 2, I say, the respect for Pythons. That is my label, that is a theme, a heading. So in other words, under the heading of respecting for Pythons, the reason for that is that Pythons is because Pythons are known to represent Wazimu. And you still remember the reason why it said it represents Wazimu is that it was there in Venda from time immemorial, and when the Venda inhabited the Bembe district municipality, they found those snakes there. So they worshipped them. That is the reason. Now, the outcomes of that is that Muvenda should not kill a Python, because then he respects. Because it is his Wazimu goddess. You cannot fight your god or your goddess. Now that is there. But we move from this level to, which is yellow. It's either that you love a tree agama or you respect a Python. And as you go to the third level, then you find that that represents good relationship with animals of good omen. So if I've got a paragraph or a section, if I've got a section or a subsection, I can entitle it good relationship with animals of good omen. Then I discuss everything that is underneath, whether it is yellow and whether it is below the yellow. Then all of it belongs here. Then I will discuss it nicely. So until this one and the relationship with animals of bad omen, all of them belong to a higher, very higher concept of relationship between the Venda and ominous animals. Ominous animals are either good, of good omen, or of bad omen. Now, today I've used the themes. You have seen it. And this is based on further segments of the data that I've looked at, that have corroborated and have ameliorated my understanding and my approach to data analysis. So I do it differently from the other type, because here I am assembling that. I don't know if I'm lost. I don't know if I've lost you. But let me pause. The good thing is that I've got this slide here, and this slide is not going anywhere because I'm going to ask those questions. And you must tell me those questions. What you see here on this slide, this slide is standing there. And when you ask questions, you're looking at it, or you can take pictures of it. Take pictures of this slide so that I can go and hide it a little bit and look at you when you raise your hand. I want us to discuss it based on those questions. You remember the 4 questions that I asked you to take pictures of. Also take a picture of this one. If you have done so, let me go and check your hands and your charts, which would be on the chat box. And we debate data analysis in terms of reassembling.
So my question, I just want to understand. So this data analysis that you did, was it fully manually done, or there was an assistant of a software?
No, remember I'm a baby boom. It was done way back, and there was no technology. I don't even know Atlas myself. I don't even know what is that other one in. Is it NVivo? What do you call it? This Atlas and I have not used any technology. And by the way, my data was from mixed methods. So I should have done a bit of statistics. It was not done. My statistic was done by a calculator. And my statistic was to work on percentage only. It's only to know how many people are in agreement and how many people are in a disagreement in quantitative, in percentage, conversion into percentage with the use of a calculator. Sometimes I used my head because they were very simple things. And then even qualitative data, the head was used, no machine was used. So that, I like, and this study, I would not have accomplished it. I want to tell you, that person that I will introduce here one day, if she's here, she must raise her hand, and I want her to raise it now, and she must say, I am the mentor. That person is the one who made me actually pass complete the research report. because it was thrown out. It was sent to the study leader and it was thrown out because it meant nothing. It was a jumbo mumble. And I still remember the comment that I always made sweeping statements. And even today, I will never forget the term, the concept of sweeping statements, that you don't make a statement that does not come from anywhere, that is not substantiated. If a respondent did not tell you, then you got it from the literature. Unless if you are assigning a meaning or you are interpreting it. Then if you just mention it and it comes from nowhere and it does not have source, then it means it is a sweeping statement. And those people whose reports I've commented on, they know that every time when they've written something and they did not include a source, I always say, please include source, because I don't want to tell them this is a sweeping statement, because I was told I wrote sweeping statements. And I want to thank that person now in front of you. When she raises her hands, I want to thank her. And madam, if you are here, please, I don't want to mention your name. I want you to be the one saying, I am the mentor, so people can know you. So I did not use any machine, Tinyiko. I used my head, and I was using a mind map.
Very impressive. Thank you for that.
Yes, colleagues, you have got the I want you to answer those questions. And Tinyiko, you are part of these people that are going to answer. How might different experiences or different events or different themes in the database be related to each other? And let us look at this. Now, don't raise a hand, just to talk, because I want you to look at this thing. Just to talk, because I want to see your hands. You have got these, a lot of themes here. You've got subheadings from level 1 to level 4. You have got subheadings. And you see, I want to tell you that because I did not use a machine, these levels, to me, I did not exist, but I know that they existed. It's only today that I know that this level existed. Because if I go to my research report, it has got a section, it has got subsection and a section and a major section and a chapter and the report. And I can see that these are levels. Take it from me, this is what are levels. If you don't agree, you will be convinced when you analyze data that levels are actually chapters or sections. And there are themes or some type of paragraphs or some types of statements or words or verb or whatever labels they are. And don't worry about the language, colleagues. Worry about what the strategy does for you. And the experience, you see, the output is important. The process is as important as the output. But the semantic thing, the language that you use the language, the ordinary language that you know. Don't worry whether you're not Creswell and Creswell, and you are not Yin. You are yourselves. Just write as yourselves so that you can make a meaningful contribution. If you copy Creswell and Creswell, you are not yourselves. You are Creswell. So can you answer this question? How can all these components relate to each other? These groupings, whether yellow or blue, how do they relate to each other? Does yellow relate to another yellow? Does yellow relate to blue or to green or to dark blue? You can speak. Okay, let me kill the figure, as long as you have it in your phone. Say something to me. Otherwise I would think that you are not with me or you are lost. And I want to tell you some other things. Last year, when I was presenting data analysis, the team and the workshop said they don't understand what I'm talking about. I tried to explain, they don't understand. Now, this time, last week and Tuesday, you never said you don't understand. But if today you are not understanding, say it so that you can point to me the places where you don't understand. The good thing is that this time I've got examples. And you know that I go to basics. These things, if you were not this very good group, some people would say that I must not play with them because I'm bringing basic examples that don't belong to this level of studies. Other people would say that, but I do it because I'm so simple. And it is the only thing that I can talk to you because I don't know any complicated aspects than this. But to me, this constitutes a practical way of analyzing data. So I'm giving you the opportunity to say something. If you can't answer that one, okay, let me go to the other one. Do imaging patterns move you to important plane? What did the imaging patterns do? Do you remember that I showed you some data that has confirmed my earlier perception or my earlier understanding gained from literature and the concepts that I had before I could collect data? I had read literature. I demonstrated to you that that one does exist. So it answers the second question. But how do the patterns relate to concepts and hypotheses entertained at the outset of the study? It is the example that I've cited now. But the last one, do patterns become more complicated or expansive when you review additional segments? Yes, because when I brought additional segments or additional paragraphs, then I was able to create the themes instead of just mentioning the names of the animals that are inside there. You can see that level 1 there does still have Python. But when I move up to level 2, to the yellow, I don't talk about the Python. It is a theme of respect for Pythons. Even where at level 1, there is a Python. A Python is just part of the statement that Movenda should not kill what? A Python. It is a statement. So I could remember out of this box, level 1, Movenda should not kill a Python. I had a long and extensive expansion that when it has to be found, it's to be killed, it must be reported to the chief, and the chief is the only one who can allow it to be killed. And when you kill it, rain goes away or there's influenza. These boxes actually represent that big narrative. So you can answer that indeed, having unraveled additional data segments, then it made you have this box, and this box actually represent that masses of the data. That data cannot fit here because it is too much. Look how small this box is. We said this diagram is very small because it's just a pager, because it should represent all the data that is talking about the bad omens and the good omens, or about all the ominous about the relationship with all ominous animals. This is just a summary. It doesn't have everything. But if you want everything, that is where the author says, go back, cross-check your themes and your data with your database or your data bank backwards that you have compiled to find that you have not selectively overlooked the other. And the reason why we have got this Movenda should not kill and why we've got this diagram is because we went back to that which we did not include on Tuesday, so to ensure that we did not overlook. And the results is actually what we see here in front of us. Now, I give you the last time to comment, then I move. If you don't comment, I move. I've got evidence that this class did listen to the process of reassembling because it is recorded. The last time in the last bite, anybody? So are you? No, Kidiboni, you can't. And you can't keep quiet because you are in the field and you are collecting data. Don't you use themes to analyze data? Kidiboni, you are analyzing, and when you are analyzing, you are putting headings. Aren't you developing chapters, sections, and subsections? Don't you have themes? You do. Say something to it, because this is what it is meant for.
Yes, Dr. Korombia, I'm in agreement with how you are approaching it. And I must say that it helps because from me, I using the Atlas TI, although I do go through the transcripts to make sure that all what the transcriber has put is indeed what was said in the interviews, and it helps because I'm then able to reflect on what I am doing. So I'm in agreement with how you have put this framework, the levels, and from level 1 to level 4, they do interconnect.
And it's beautiful. So.
Yes, no, that is true. And the level 4 is answering of the question, and I believe this is one of your objectives, the relationship between the Vavenda and omnivorous animals.
Actually,
Omnivorous.
the bigger heading is the role of vendor culture in nature conservation. Then that is displayed in the relationship. And somewhere when we interpreted and we did conclusion, we spoke about the taboos, and all this relationship is included in there, because you don't have one format of reporting the data. And I thank you very much for making those comments. So I want us to make sense of what you see. I'm trying to interpret what the author has said. And the way to interpret it is to look at what I think is practical. So under my understanding of the practical implication of this theory is actually this diagram that I've put in here. And I don't say you must have this diagram, because you must know you are not going to report this diagram in your writing. But if you think it is important, this author says you use it as an addendum. But this is a step that can assist you to approach it. By the way, if this is coding, remember that we don't necessarily have to code. And I will show you what you can do if you're not coding. There is a matrix that you can use. I don't know if the matrix itself is coding or whatever, but there's another way of not using this diagram, but of using a table. I will be able to show you that one because it is the next section that we're going to discuss. And Tinyiko, do you want to say something? Very much, Kidi.
For now, I don't have much to add since I haven't released that data analysis, but what you're showing us does make sense, because when I was doing my master's, this is exactly how I also did it. We didn't have a software by then, so I did everything manually, and I used the thematic analysis to be able to create the themes and the sub-themes for my research.
Beautiful. Then you see now, you exactly making sense of what it is, because you referring to the strategy of data analyzing qualitative data. Are you also a baby boom when you said there was no software by then? Are you a baby boom?
Not really. I think I was not exposed, and also being at the University of Pretoria, whereby they believe in hard work, like really hard work. So we were not really exposed to such things. We were only taught that when you do analysis, this is how you do it. So maybe the softwares were there, because I did it I finished 2019, 2020, somewhere there.
The software was there by then.
Yeah, but I didn't have any clue about it. So all of these things regarding the software and stuff, most things I'm actually learning here at UNISA.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you very much for the contribution. I'm moving. I noted that I had to force you to speak, but your contributions were valuable. I wanted to establish if indeed we all together. So let me move, because I want to go to another matrices. Oh, we left with 3 minutes. Let me quickly run and show you the other matrices that can represent this in a different form, to show that it's not only this diagram that can present it, particularly when you're not coding. Hey, it makes me skip a lot of things here now. And I'm doing it because we're left with 3 minutes. I want you to have the benefit of this. This is when you're designing a matrices as an array, not a hierarchy. Matrices, and you use a table like this one. Do you say it, colleagues? Now, the heading is relationship between the vendor and the omnivorous animals. It's the same as what we did with the hierarchy. Then this example has put headings. Now you can see that there is a heading. Animals. Now we can talk about this animal and describe it under that heading. But we can take this discussion and merge this this owl when we talk about the omen related to it, and we talk about the relationship with it and the vendor, and we talk about how people react to it. But there is a heading about where we will talk about omens only. We talk about the omen in relation to the owl, to the python, and the spotted hyena. Then this column is that, then other people can say this is a class or a category. This might represent a category, and these small clusters categories, but this is a category of omen. Then a category of omen relates to the omen. A subcategory of omen relates to the omen that only is in relation to the owl, and the other omen, the other subcategory is the that omen that is specific to the python or to the spotted hyena. The same applies to relationships and reaction, and all these are headings where you would discuss the omen, you would discuss the relationship, you would discuss the reaction. If relationship is a section or a chapter, then it has got that chapter of relationship has got a section on how owls are feared and how owls are hated and how they are linked, and another subsection on how pythons are respected by the Bavenda, and in the same section, a subsection that talks about how the spotted hyena is feared, is hated, or is liked. The same applies to reaction, how people react to it. It would be a major chapter or a major section with subsections with different sub-themes or different subsections. So this is a different way of presenting your themes or reassembling your data as opposed to using a diagram. And because we are now at 30, I'm going to stop here so that if there is anything that you want to ask and anything that you want to say, we can discuss it now here. There's a lot of information that is there, or I could present this diagram. Unfortunately, I couldn't go through it because we have run out of time. Every day we don't finish, but it's a good thing that we have at least done something. And if this diagram is not very visible, maybe it is because I did not put, sorry, if this table was not visible, it's because maybe it was not on a presentation mode, but there is the presentation mode. I'm stopping here. If somebody wants to say something, it is the opportunity before we can close. Let me look at you. Any other comment on the chat box? Any other comment by hand? Kidiboni.
Yes, Dr. Korombi, thank you so much for the insightful presentation. Actually, I wanted to touch on a statement that you said, which confirmed my concern. Yes. Yes, ontologically, as a quantitative researcher, there is a belief that you should, or you are independent from your and I'm so in disagreement with that belief.
Yes.
Because, and you said that in one of your slides here today, because in my instance, and this would benefit other quantitative researchers. In my case, I had to go through the integrated annual reports. I had to extract information. I had to take that information and convert it from Word to PDF. I had to load it on a software. I had to code it. I had to transform it.
And that was quantitative data, by the way.
Yes, this was quantitative data. So I'm so in disagreement with that statement that you are independent from the data collection. And yeah, textbooks, like you are saying, they are unfortunately saying this unknowingly and reinforcing this misunderstanding.
Yes, they think that you must be detached. They believe on experiments that the process should run itself, then don't interfere with the outcomes and with the data that is being processed. And I don't know, because these machines are instructed by us. And when I go to the lab, it's me who's carrying those small bottles, the blood samples of HIV infected people like myself, or coronavirus people like myself. Carrying those bottles is carried by a person, and he goes and instructs the machine to actually analyze how many virus Am I heavily loaded in my blood? Is my blood cholesterol too high or whatever? It's me. And when the results come out, he writes down and he communicates them, he interprets them. Heaven. But they say that he is detached.
No.
What type of people are they? They are positivist, by the way, far extremely.
Yeah,
but
then that,
but thank you.
okay, that needs to be challenged. Thank you.
Yes, let's challenge. But you are challenging it because you are not purely a quantitative researcher. You are a mixed method approach researcher. Maybe that's the reason why you understand it. But those that are deeply into it, they are so convinced that they don't want to move from it. If they're doing a bridge, oh well, that tension and that bridge stability, that soil stability, slope stability, to them, then let it be determined by the machine and the but perhaps they themselves are they're the creators of the machines, and they manipulate and they calibrate. The other day we were talking about calibration. Who calibrates the machine? It's a human being. And they read, and they can read it wrongly. If they read it wrongly, they've interfered with the results.
Oh.
Yeah,
because
thank you very much.
Yeah, because in my instance, I had, after coding the scores, I had to look for the outliers, and there were many outliers. Then I had to transform them by introducing the logarithm. So it still needed me to make sure that I bring it to my data, I bring it to a sense that it will be able to be run by the software.
You see?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's a very good comment. And now you can see that we are very high there. We are talking above the heads of the professors and the researchers and the authors, because we can see what they are doing to us. So they will one day become conscious of it. Thank you very much, Gidi. Anybody else who wants to make a final contribution before we hand over to Belinda? So if you are not familiar with coding, there is another option you can use. Yes, Chauke, you do it the manual. You can do manual, or you can do it the table format way, and even the narrative way without tables can still assist you to analyze your data. I did not do the table. I did not use the hierarchy. I was using mind map. I can agree that I've done. But I did not do it formally. I just informally did it because I had to have a way of arranging data so that it can make sense to me. How do I write a story about the findings? By organizing it so that it can make sense. Then eventually I found that I analyzed on my own, and it was not the coding way. And most of the people do tell you that coding is optional. Everyone can do the non-coding way, but for most of us to do coding, we have to learn what coding is. And I've said this author sees it as a time-consuming way, because you have to learn the strategy and you have to concentrate on it. And we have just said today, when you concentrate on the strategy of how to code, then you're forgetting about the patterns or the data itself. Then you concentrate on the method of coding. You see now, that is the challenge. But a person who goes straight non-coding and interpret, he moves faster, because once he establishes himself, then he implements what he knows in his head very fast, because he can, when there are problems, he can fix them himself. He doesn't have to fix the coding strategy or to fix himself or whatever, but he fixes that strategy because it is what he himself introduces. Okay, thank you very much. If there is no more questions or comments.
Thank you very much again, Dr. Karombe. Thank you for your participation, students, and assisting Dr. Karombe to make his work easier for him. Thank you for your knowledge you share with us, sir. And like he said, we'll all see us next week, Thursday. Thank you.